Hi, Wednesday, June 22nd, 2016. Maneko64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So we've got one day to go to the EU referendum here in the UK, or Brexit as it's more colloquially known. And I usually don't buy the newspapers, but I went down to the shop around near my house, and I bought the Sun today, which is the biggest tabloid newspaper in the UK. And as you can see, it says, "What Queen asked dinner guests? Give me 3 good reasons to stay in Europe." So apparently the Queen has been asking dinner guests that question. And the press has contacted Buckingham Palace for an explanation, and they've not confirmed it nor denied, and they said we don't comment on the Queen's private conversations. And it's an interesting point that the Sun makes, because the Queen, there's an unwritten rule that the monarch in the United Kingdom should not get involved in politics. The monarch is only the head of state. So very interesting. And the other point about so here it is, give me 3 good reasons to stay in Europe. And some of the mainstream media, the people who are for staying in Europe, they're spinning that and saying that, oh, it was just a question. But when you ask that kind of question, give me 3 good reasons to stay in Europe, it means that you personally probably don't want to stay, and you're trying to have a discussion with someone that does. That's what it feels to me. The other point I'd like to make is that the Sun basically has been a barometer for political not movements, but political results in the UK. Back in 1997, the Sun backed Tony Blair and New Labour, as it was called back then, and they won the general election. Prior to that, they backed John Major in 1992, and he won as well. He was a conservative. And then in for the 2010 election, they actually backed the conservatives, the Sun, and the conservatives won. So there is kind of a mystique about the Sun tabloid, which is actually owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News and Sky and all those other companies, and the Wall Street Journal. So yeah, there's a mystique and kind of a rule of thumb that whatever the Sun backs, be it a political party, or in this case now the referendum to, the position to exit Europe, that camp will win. So could be. It's still fairly close. There's a big debate yesterday, a BBC debate between the Remain and the Leave campaigns. It was quite a heated debate. Difficult to tell who got the most support, but in my opinion, the Leave made the best cases. The Remain used a lot of fear. They basically said, oh, if we leave, we don't know what's going to happen. But changing the subject then, it looks like the Queen is actually standing up maybe for her sovereigns, for her subjects, sorry. She's the sovereign. She's standing up for her subjects, which are the British people, and saying, Europe is done. I don't know. She might not even ask that question. But anyway, I'd like to move on to the consequences of Brexit, not only for the UK, but for the rest of the world. And yes, the UK is a small country, but people forget the City of London. The City of London is basically where all the re-hypothecation and where the OTC derivatives market actually evolved, and that's where it's based. That's why there are more American banks in London than there are American banks in New York. That's why there are more foreign banks in London than any other city in the world, because they can come here and re-hypothecate as many times over. And all that means is that, if they've got 100 shares of IBM, they can land a million of them and say, oh, we've got 100 shares, we can re-hypothecate. So that's where they get the leverage. It's the City of London. So we've had a lot of warnings from Lord Rothschild, from George Soros, from the government, from Obama, from Merkel, all saying that it will be a disaster. It could, they could shut the markets. It could be very volatile. And we've seen this volatility, since, in the last few weeks, even before the death of Joe Cox. The markets have been moving very, very, in a very volatile fashion, especially the foreign exchange markets. And people in America usually don't really look into foreign exchange, but that's the most important market in the financial system globally, because that's where the dollar flows happen. And I have to say, we have had a lot of volatility. Even the VIX, I saw an article yesterday, has gone up, even though the stock market has remained elevated. There's a lot of fear. So my view is that could this referendum be used as an excuse to actually bring down the financial system, to erase over 1 quadrillion of derivatives out there, mostly over-the-counter derivatives, but also the exchange-traded derivatives. I don't put that possibility out of the question. Is it, they could use that. If Britain chooses to leave or exit the European Union, we could see market mayhem, and they could blame the British people for leaving the EU for all this happening. But don't buy into that. I think it could be, and I might be wrong, nothing might happen. The UK might vote to stay and the markets are fine. We might vote to leave, the markets drop and come back. But they, a lot of commentators in the alternative media, they keep going on about, and I do too, that nothing's been done to fix the problems that we had in 07, from 07 to 09. If anything, they patched up the system with a humongous amount of debt, trillions and trillions. The big banks, the too big to fail, have become even bigger to fail. So it's impossible, it's impossible to pay back all this debt, and it's impossible to write off all these derivatives without causing a major financial, societal, economic upheaval. So what better way to use Brexit, as an excuse and say, oh, it wasn't our fault, it wasn't the bankers and politicians' fault, it was the British people's fault because they chose to leave the European Union, and use that as an excuse. That, in my opinion, is what is really happening here. I could be wrong, but if it is, if you're not prepared now and you haven't done what you've supposed to do financially, it will be too late on Friday. So it could be the great reset that so many people talk about, where they shut the markets for a week or two. Don't forget, the City of London is the heart of the derivatives market. New York trades derivatives, but US rules don't allow American banks to hypothecate as much as they do in London. So if the London markets are shut, the whole system's shut down. So if you enjoyed this video and my views, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And let's see what happens over the next couple of days. I could be wrong. Who knows? It's just my view. Take care. Goodbye.